Good afternoon. We're doing the laws of Sefirah. We're on tough pay tests. And hey, so it's 4895. So in any idea, let's say you don't know what day of the Omer is. So what do? Instead of, you're supposed to ask somebody, obviously, but this is what you do instead. Upasach adaita delisayim kamo sheyishma mechavero v'shasak ad sheshama mechavero v'siyam kamo. So you say, you know what? I'll just make the bracha with everybody else, and after I hear my friend count Sefirah, I'll just repeat what he says. So the Omer Hayom arba yamim ba'omer. So you're going to do that. So Yatsa, you fulfilled your obligation. So even though you didn't know what day you were counting when you made the blessing, nevertheless you fulfilled your obligation. Okay, let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says. Upasach etz habracha v'sayim kamo yatsa rotzelaymar af bebracha. The adaita dahaki pasach habracha v'sayim. He says you fulfilled even the mitzvah of the bracha. You fulfilled it. He says you really shouldn't do this. This is not the preferred practice. One should only make the bracha on Sefirah if he knows what day is counting. So before you make the bracha, you should find out what day it is. Because there's a prohibition to make an interruption between the blessing and the mitzvah, even with a pause. You're not supposed to pause anytime you make a bracha and to do a mitzvah, more than kedei dibur, which is the time it takes to say the phrase Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. So that's a couple seconds, if that. So one should not do this practice, but if one did it, he fulfilled his obligation. Okay, Vav. Im pasach va'amar baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam adaita delema hayom arba. Let's say you started out the bracha and you thought that tonight was the fourth day. Shehu savar shehem arba v'niskar v'siyam b'chamisha v'hem chamisha. And you think and you realize that, wait a minute, it's not the fourth day, it's the fifth day, so you count the fifth day. You fulfilled the obligation. Even though when you started making the bracha you thought it was the wrong day, since you finished correctly, you fulfilled your obligation. Okay, now another case which is going to be a little interesting. So, let's say that you have another case. You think that it's 4, and it actually is 4, and you plan to say 4, but by accident you said 5. So what should be the halacha there? So you counted the wrong day. You had intention to count the correct day, but you counted the wrong day. So the Shulchan Aruch says something very interesting. He says you don't go back and make another blessing. So right away the Mishnah Berurah says that the Achronim, the latter-day authorities, they are very surprised by this ruling, because he says, I understand in the first case where you started thinking it was the fourth day, or you started thinking it was the wrong day, and then you remembered that it was the correct day, and you actually said the correct day, so it makes sense that you fulfilled your obligation because you actually said the correct day. But here, where you had in mind only to say the correct day, and you finished and said the wrong day, how could it be that you fulfill your obligation? So he says, he quotes these rabbis, they argue on the Shulchan Aruch, and they say, so you have to go back, and you have to count again with the blessing. So if it happens that you count the wrong night, you have to go back and you have to count again with a blessing, even if you plan to say the correct night. But since the incorrect night came out of your mouth, you did not fulfill the bracha. Now he says, let's say you... One second. Let's say you counted actually the wrong night, and you remember, toch kedei dibur, within a second or so, you remember that, wait a minute, that's the wrong night. So what you should do is you should just go back and count the correct night right away, without making a new bracha, anything. Because if it's still within that second when you finished, you can go back and you can correct it, you can undo the incorrect day you counted and actually count the correct day. Tavasam Shulchan Hogan, Avakama Achronim Eskimu, the Afim Beis Abracha Haydaito Gamal Yom Acher V'chein Sibur B'tos Mikomakim B'toch Dibur Niskar Shatal Yisayim Take it for Hogan. He says even if during the bracha you plan, let's say during the bracha you thought it was the fourth day, and you actually said the fourth day, if you remember within a second or two, you can just go back and say Hayom Chamisha Yamim Ba'omer and say quickly to uproot what you said. Od kasu. Furthermore, they write, Dim tava omer hayom yom revi ba'omer. He says you don't even have to say all that. You could just say, let's say you mistakenly thought it was the fourth day, and you said Hayom Revi Ba'omer, and you just remember right away. You could just say Chamishi Ba'omer. So you said today's the fourth day, fifth day. That's fine. You fulfill the obligation. Even though you didn't say the phrase today is 5, you said today is 4-5, that still works. Since you said it Tocha Dibor, you said it within that short amount of time. Okay, so just to review, if one doesn't know the day of Sefirah, it is not preferred to make the blessing and then wait to hear somebody else, although if you did do that, you fulfill the obligation. And if someone had in mind to count the wrong day, but he actually counted the correct day, that's fine. Meaning at the time of the bracha, he had in mind to count the wrong day, and he counted the right day, that's fine. And what someone should do is, if he counted the wrong day, is that he should right away, toch k'dei dibor, within a few seconds, just say hayom, and say the correct day, if he remembers quickly. If he doesn't remember, then he has to go back and count again with the bracha if it's still the evening. Wishing everyone a beautiful day.